Tell us about your, the pivot. I think as a founder, that's definitely a very tough decision, right? You've been working on this idea, this startup, you know, for a couple of years. How did you arrive at that point? I think you touched on some of that, but just, talk us through that process. And I'm sure it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, uh, getting to that point. Like, how did you, like, what made you, I guess, decide that in the first place? And then what was your decision making process?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's every founder goes through this journey where you have this big vision of something you want to build. And inevitably, when it turns out that, it's not working and, the first iteration rarely does, then you're at kind of this, you have to make this decision, which is to like what to do next. And there's like these micro pivots that happen, small changes with the business. And what I think happens often is that you go through enough of these small pivots up until a point where you don't even recognize the business anymore. You're not really building for a mission. You're building just for the sake of building a business. And that's kind of what happened to us. Like, I think over time, we were just trying to survive, and we kept doing whatever it needed to happen for us to just get revenue and find customers. And I think by doing that and not really kind of questioning the underlying assumptions and deciding if this was really the business we wanted to build, we got to a place where the work we were doing was just not fun anymore, right? And I think that's like really important to be having fun when you're building a startup. It's hard work, but fundamentally it's got to be fun, because unless it is, you're not going to be able to stick with it for the long run. And we had finally got to a point where we were building a product that was essentially selling to higher ed. It was just like deep, heavy enterprise sales. And to make that business work, I would have had to basically spend every weekend at like a conference, networking with like university administrators. And that business just didn't get me excited. Like,
Yeah.
I just remember just thinking, waking up one day and just thinking like, what am I doing? Like this is not the people I want to serve. The people I want to serve are the students. And so when that became crystal clear that, one, the business, just the momentum wasn't there, and I wasn't excited about where we were headed, then it didn't make sense to go on. Like, I think before I was talking about perseverance, but I think perseverance can only take you so far. I think there needs to be more. There's like just like you have financial runway, there's also emotional runway. And so you need something else to fuel you. And usually for startup, it's you have this emotional endurance until you get traction and customers and revenue and growth, and then that stuff fuels you. And so just having nothing, we're just out of fuel. So it was, the question then was, do we just die? Do we give up? Do we sell the
Yeah.
business? Or do we try to pivot and do something else? And I think fundamentally I just realized that, like, if I were to, shut down my company, sell my business, what would I really want to be doing long term? And funny enough, I came to the realization that, wow, like, I would probably go, I would work there for a couple of years, I'd save up some money, I'd go back and start another company. But then I realized, like, oh wait, like, I'm doing that now. Like, I have the venture capital in the bank, we have the runway to give it one more shot. And I kind of like my team. I don't want to have to go and rehire this amazing team. So why don't we just do it now? Why don't we just, instead of waiting 2 years, why don't we try again right now? And we leverage everything we learned, and all, we've learned how to execute as a team. We've learned so much about the industry. We have connections. We have our network. How can we leverage that to make this next thing a smashing success? And so that was kind of the birth of Peervine.